Hi, I'm Steph Zito. I'm an intuitive soul purpose coach, and I have some information I put out here on YouTube and some meditation on Insight Timer on Joe Dispenza's meditations. I've sort of adapted his meditations to my own style, and I've gotten some questions, especially here, about what the heck are we doing when Joe Dispenza asks us to focus on our bodies and the space around our bodies and our bodies in space. So it goes through these things. It's like, focus in on your body, focus in on the space around your body, focus on your body in space. He's saying in space, in space, in space so many times. And I think for some of us were like, what the heck? I don't even understand this. So how can I benefit from this meditation if I don't even understand what he means? So first I'm going to talk about why this is important. I'm going to explain it using some of the text from his book, Becoming Supernatural. And then I'm going to explain how we can actually visualize ourselves being in space. Because there's a reason, there's a method to the madness. All right, so much to talk about, but first things first. The first thing I want to talk about, and I'm actually going to point you to, if you do have this book, to page 90, where he talks about convergent and divergent focus. So here's the deal. When we are in convergent focus, we're focusing in on one thing. Like I can focus in on these AirPods. I can focus in on my hand, which is a meditation. I mean, it can be very helpful, especially for someone who's having a panic attack, to focus really specifically in on one thing. It's narrow focus, it's convergent. I'm converging all my focus in on one thing. On the flip side, we can do this when we start to ruminate and we think about something over and over and over and over and over again. It might be a negative self-belief. It might be some story we tell ourselves. It might be some worry. It might be what actually keeps us up at night. Can you relate? Does that happen to you? Okay. Yeah, so you're focusing on the narrow focus. You're focusing on objects or things, people or places, mostly things that have three dimensions. Like this has three dimensions. My hand has three dimensions, right? Now, I'm just kind of looking at this to make sure I've got this as we go. Okay. So what can happen is when we're in that state and we narrow our focus even further, this is what happens when we can get into survival mode. And when we get into that kind of fight or flight state, we can really get into this narrow focus. And what happens then is that the different compartments of the brain that want to work together divide, and they begin to not work together. They're not communicating effectively. They're not working in coherence or orderliness. They're in an incoherent state. So this has been seen when they've done brain scans to measure brain waves, okay? So when your brain is incoherent, you are incoherent. When your brain is not working right, you are not working right. So instead of thinking of this beautiful symphony, it's like all these little parts that are meant to work together are not working together. The breath might be really shallow and the thoughts are all over the place. And you know when you're trying to solve a problem, but you just can't, it's because you're not in coherence. You're not thinking coherently, all right? So because of this imbalanced, incoherent state, we're left to try to control and force outcomes in our life. Joe Dispenza's whole thing isn't to force outcomes in our life. It's to allow in the space for us to manifest our greatest desires, to manifest healing, in part through receiving, through a coherent state, and through what we call the quantum field, which is the space in space. All right, so here we go. Let's go into that a little bit more. All right. Narrow convergent focus. It could be stressing, obsessively thinking about the same thing over and over again, preparing for the worst case outcome, giving you a better chance of survival because no matter what happens, you're prepared for it. Now, when we come to an open, broad focus, this is why he asks us to broaden our focus from the body, from the torso, from the head to the space around the body. We are broadening our focus. Now we're focusing on our body in space. There's another reason for this I'm going to talk about in a moment, but for now, we're talking about coming into this open focus, this broad focus, just like we do in meditation, so you can become aware of the space. And so the light and the energy around your body in space, this is divergent focus. You go from focusing, he says, on something to focusing on no thing. So we focus on the energy versus the particle. We focus on the energy wave instead of the particle, which is matter. I am matter. My body is matter. My body is also energy. I am energy and I am a particle. Everything is energy. He talks about this. Everything is energy. My thoughts, my emotions have a frequency. They have an energy. So we come into what we call this divergent focus. And so when you practice using your narrow focus to rest your attention on different parts of the body, acknowledging the particle, and then you open your focus so that you sense the space around these parts of your body in space, right? You acknowledge the wave. Guess what happens? Your brain changes into a more coherent, balanced state. Ta-da! So if we can get this, we're actually allowing our brains to come into this more coherent state. What's interesting is he then talks about, this is page 91, he talks about this guy, Les Femi, a PhD, so I should call him Dr. Femi. He was a director of Princeton Biofeedback back in the 70s. And he was looking at this shift from narrow focus to open focus, changing the brain waves. He was looking for how people could move their brainwaves from beta, which is conscious thought, to alpha, which is relaxed and creative. And the most effective way to make the shift, he discovered, was directing people to become aware of space or nothingness, adopting what he called open focus. So it's exactly what Dr. Joe is asking us to do, to develop that open focus. And I am going to talk about how we can actually do that if it feels challenging or we're like, what the heck? What is this? The Buddhist tradition has been using this also for thousands of years. As you open your focus and you sense information instead of matter, your brain waves slow down from beta to alpha. This makes sense because when you are sensing and feeling, you are not thinking. So we're kind of helping ourselves get out of that state of like overthinking, that high alert state, that sympathetic state, so we can come into that relaxed state with those brain waves like I mentioned. All right, now the next piece of this is another thing that Dr. Joe is involved with is called mind movies. And years ago, I got to meet the people who started the mind movies. And the mind movie is a technique to help us to identify and sort of bring to life, bring into the present that which we desire. It's a manifesting technique, okay? And the reason why he wants us to get into this sort of divergent focus, where we're becoming sort of that energy, not the matter, is that this is like a pathway into observing ourselves in that mind movie. So if I want to, let's say I want to get a Rolls Royce. I don't know. I'm not really a materialist. I mean, things aren't as important to me as experiences. But in this example, let's say like one of my things I want to manifest is owning a Rolls Royce. So what's so interesting is we don't want to see ourselves. I don't want to visualize myself sitting in that Rolls Royce. I want to be an observer. I want to be like outside myself, watching myself in the Rolls Royce. And the reason for this is if I am already visualizing myself in it, it plays a trick on my brain to think that I'm already there. I don't have to do any work. I already have that Rolls Royce. My brain is like seeing myself being in it, being in the Rolls Royce. And so I'm like, I'm good. So this technique to manifest it is I need to be the observer. I need to be on the outside. Okay. So the reason why he talks about, and now I'm moving to page 201. If you do have the book, I'm using my card deck as bookmarks. But he says, many people who have been introduced to my work have wondered, why do I spend so much time on becoming aware of the space their bodies occupy in space, as well as the opening their focus to the space around their body and the space that the room occupies in space. Aside from the coherent changes my cues produce in the brain, it's all training for this mindful activity of pairing our mind movie with this kaleidoscope thing he does during meditation. So if you're following his meditations, that we can kind of get into that in a separate video, but I want to kind of stick with this for now. Okay. All right. So the last thing I'm going to really talk about here is that when we start to do this, what he wants people to do is, like I mentioned, kind of see the scene as not their body. He wants you to become an awareness in the emptiness of space, kind of as if you're incapable of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, or smelling anything. Once you become this awareness, then you begin to see the scene in the mind movie. So you really need to sort of become consciousness itself. So what he's guiding us towards is the ability to be in consciousness itself and to be in this divergent focus. So I hope that that helps to explain why the heck we're doing this. And now I want to kind of help us to learn and understand how to visualize this, because I think it can be a challenge for some people. The first thing I want us to think about is, and I may make a completely separate meditation for this, is if you were to close your eyes for a moment and visualize like you're an astronaut in space. You're literally an astronaut in space. You can look down and you can see the earth below, but you're just up there in space, right? You're part of space. And now I want you to visualize, pan out even further, and see how space is so vast. You're in our galaxy. You're floating, but you can now pan out and you can, maybe you've exited our galaxy. You're in another galaxy and you're seeing our galaxy from far away. Okay? See the galaxy, right? Like you see a picture in a book of the galaxy. And now I want you to visualize that you are in infinite galaxies. You are in space as infinite galaxies. And imagine that you're not even like your body right now. You're just a consciousness within all of this stuff. You are in space. Now come back, pan in, closer to Earth. Earth is this. This is so vast. Earth is just kind of flying through space, right? We are flying through space. So as I sit here in this chair, in this place, which seems so like specific and dense, I am a molecule, I am particles, and I am energy flying through space on this big circle, this big ball of energy and particles called Earth, amongst other energy and particles, right? All these other planets that are circling the sun. So right now, that is what's happening. There is space around me. Gravity is holding me to the earth, but there is space around me. So I want you to picture, let's do this through colors. Hold your hand up in front of you, and as you close your eyes, visualize your hand. You are consciousness seeing in your mind's eye your own hand. And now what I'd like for you to do is to imagine there's heat that comes off of your hand. There is energy that comes off of your hand. Give this a color. Imagine there's like an inch of color. What color are you seeing? There's like an inch of color that is just all around your hand. And now imagine that this color around your hand can just diffuse, like smoke diffuses into the room around you. So you have your hand, but now you're bringing your attention to that colored air, that colored smoke that is around your hand and is now becoming broader within your room. And now imagine as you sit in your room, you can put your hands down, that this smoke, this color has filled your whole room. So if it helps you to think about the space in space or your body in space, visualize it as this color. So visualize yourself sitting in this room. As you breathe, you're breathing in this colored air. That is the space around you. So instead of seeing, you open your eyes, you don't see the air. Imagine the color, you can see it. And then if you need to go broader, imagine that color filling the area beyond your home, filling beyond the street, filling all of this space that is around us, all of this energy that is around us, all of this frequency that is around us, right? I hope that helps. I'm happy to go deeper and perhaps do our own separate meditation just on this. But I wanted to give us that background first of why this is important and why the heck we even do this. So I hope that helps. I'd love to hear your comments, and I will talk with you soon. Bye bye.